The 2026 FIFA World Cup was supposed to be a celebration, the biggest sporting event in human history. 48 nations, 104 matches, 3 countries, 1 tournament to rule them all. And in many ways, it still is exactly that. Mexico kicked things off on June 11th with a stunning 2-0 win over South Africa at the Estadio Azteca, a stadium that's hosted World Cup football before and still felt electric. The United States followed with a dominant 4-1 destruction of Paraguay in Los Angeles. Brazil drew with Morocco in one of the most watched matches of opening weekend. Australia shocked Turkey. Scotland beat Haiti. 16 groups, 48 countries, and the football? The football has genuinely been brilliant. But here's the thing. Behind all of that football, behind every goal, every tackle, every flag waving in the stands, there's a conversation happening that just won't go away. Empty seats, pricing scandals, formal legal complaints, a fan base that feels like it's being priced out of the very tournament it's supposed to be the heart of. So today, we're asking the question that a lot of people in the football world are quietly asking themselves. Has FIFA actually lost control of the 2026 World Cup? And if you're new here and you care about football at the highest level, subscribe. We cover every angle of this tournament every week right here. To understand where we are right now, you have to go back to when the backlash really started. And it wasn't last week. It started months before a single ball was kicked. When FIFA began circulating ticket price information to national associations in late 2025, the numbers that came back were jaw-dropping. Group stage tickets ranging from around $180 to $700. The cheapest ticket for the final at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, $4,185. The most expensive, $8,680. Let that sink in. $8,680 for one seat at a football match. For context, and this context matters, back in 1994, the last time the United States hosted a World Cup, tickets ranged from $25 to $475. At the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, the equivalent premium final ticket cost roughly $1,600. FIFA has effectively pushed prices up to 5, 6, sometimes 7 times what fans paid just 4 years ago. Football Supporters Europe, the largest fan umbrella organization in the world, described the pricing as extortionate. They called it a monumental betrayal of World Cup tradition. And they didn't just put out a statement, they filed a formal legal complaint against FIFA with the European Commission alongside consumer group Euroconsumers, accusing the governing body of abusing its monopoly position over ticket sales. That's not fan grumbling on social media. That's a legal action. That's a formal challenge to the way this tournament has been packaged and sold. FIFA eventually responded by introducing a $60 supporter tier, a category of lower-priced tickets distributed through national federations to loyal supporters. They also offered a £45 tier back in December, but fan groups said these cheaper tickets were largely gone before general sales even opened, and the structural pricing model never fundamentally changed. The question was never really about a discount tier, it was about who this tournament is actually for. Now here's where things get interesting, because the pricing problem didn't stay theoretical once the tournament started. On the very first day of matches, June 11th, something awkward happened that FIFA probably didn't want the world to see. While the opening match in Mexico City was packed, roaring, electric, everything a World Cup opener should be, the second match of the day told a very different story. South Korea beat the Czech Republic 2-1 in Guadalajara, and throughout that game, viral images spread across social media showing entire sections of empty seats. Not a few gaps, swaths of unoccupied spaces, especially in premium areas near the pitch. Reports suggest hospitality seats in that section were priced at around $5,000. General admission in the lower tier was around $500, and a significant number of those seats simply stayed empty. FIFA pushed back quickly. They released an official attendance figure of 44,985, almost to capacity at a stadium that holds 46,000. And they said something that raised a few eyebrows. They claimed that several ticketed fans could be seen standing in concourses rather than staying in their assigned seats. So, according to FIFA, the seats weren't empty, the people were just somewhere else in the building. Now, whether you believe that or not, and plenty of journalists and supporters have expressed skepticism, the image problem is real. Empty seats at a World Cup send a signal, and right now, that signal is being picked up by everyone watching. If you're enjoying this breakdown, make sure you subscribe. We're doing full coverage of every major storyline coming out of this tournament, and there's a lot more to unpack. But there's another angle to this, and it's one that goes deeper than just pricing. This is the first World Cup in history to feature 48 teams, and that decision, made by FIFA under President Infantino, was one of the most divisive in football governance in decades. The idea on paper sounds like expansion. More football, more nations, more stories. Countries like Uzbekistan, Jordan, and Cape Verde playing on the world's biggest stage for the first time or in expanded roles. That's genuinely meaningful for global football development. But the criticism from coaches, analysts, and football traditionalists has been consistent. More teams means more mismatches in the group stage, more low-stakes games that struggle to fill seats, and more logistical strain on a tournament that was already complex to organize. Look at what happened in Guadalajara. South Korea versus Czech Republic is, on paper, a decent match, but it wasn't a marquee match. It didn't carry the weight of a Brazil-Argentina or an England-Germany. And when you're asking fans to pay $500 for a lower-tier seat to watch that in a city that isn't a natural football hub, the risk of empty sections becomes very real. Compare this to 2022 in Qatar. The compact nature of that tournament, all matches within driving distance of each other, meant fans could attend multiple games easily. Atmospheres were dense. The logistics, however controversial Qatar's selection was, actually worked in terms of filling stadiums. The 2026 model is entirely different. Matches spread across 16 cities in 3 countries, travel costs stacking up on top of already extreme ticket prices, and a format that produces 104 matches total, meaning there are simply more seats to fill in more venues over a longer period. For some games, that equation is working perfectly. The U.S. versus Paraguay match in Los Angeles was reportedly a sellout, with fans genuinely energized. Brazil-Morocco in Dallas drew massive attention, but for others, particularly matches involving smaller nations in mid-tier venues, the cracks are showing. Now let's talk about what this means for the players and the fans who did manage to get there. Because despite everything, despite the noise, despite the price controversies, despite the empty seat images, the football itself has genuinely delivered in this opening weekend. The U.S. versus Paraguay 4-1 wasn't just a result, it was a statement. Christian Pulisic, Folarin Balogun, Weston McKennie, this American squad under Mauricio Pochettino looked genuinely cohesive and dangerous. The host nation's fans responded. Los Angeles was loud. The atmosphere was real. Brazil drawing with Morocco was a reminder that Africa is no longer here just to make up the numbers. Morocco, who reached the semifinals in Qatar, pushed the 5-time world champions to a 1-1 draw. That's not a consolation performance. That's a genuine contest between two footballing forces. Australia came into this tournament with modest expectations and immediately shocked Turkey 2-0. Nestor Irankunda scored a brilliant opener. Connor Metcalf added the second. The Socceroos are alive and dangerous in Group D. And Scotland, a nation that hasn't appeared at a World Cup in decades until now, beat Haiti to go top of Group C. Their fans traveled in their thousands, filled corners of stadiums in blue and tartan, and celebrated like they'd won the whole thing. That's the other side of this story. For the supporters who got there, who paid the prices, who made it work, this tournament is extraordinary. The fan experience inside those packed stadiums has been everything World Cup football is supposed to be. But the concern is how sustainable that experience is across 6 weeks and 104 matches. So where does this go from here? FIFA has already sold more than 6 million tickets in total. The tournament is running, it's not going to stop, and the football will almost certainly carry it to the finish line, regardless of the controversy surrounding it. But the bigger picture question is what this tournament leaves behind. In the best-case scenario, the on-field drama takes over. Star players emerge, upsets continue. Brazil, France, Germany, England, and Argentina provide the kind of moments that transcend the noise. The empty seats fill up as the knockout rounds approach and pressure builds, and by the time the final takes place at MetLife Stadium on July 19th, the world forgets about the controversy and remembers the football. That's entirely possible. That's actually what history suggests usually happens. Great tournaments wash away the difficult conversations. But in a more difficult scenario, the empty seat problem compounds. If premium sections stay visibly unoccupied through the group stage, if the images keep circulating, it becomes a narrative that follows every match. If the formal legal complaint from Football Supporters Europe gains traction at the European Commission level, FIFA may face regulatory pressure on its pricing model, not just for this tournament, but for future ones. And the dynamic pricing model they've introduced, where ticket prices fluctuate based on demand, used at a World Cup for the very first time, could create unpredictable moments of exposure. Prices too high for games that underperform in terms of demand, leaving empty seats and awkward optics. There's also the question of what this expansion to 48 teams ultimately means for the quality and commercial appeal of the group stage. FIFA will be watching closely whether the full stadiums and energy hold across all 12 groups, or whether this is a structure that works brilliantly for some matches and struggles for others. The result of those observations will shape the next World Cup, and the one after that. Here's where we land on all of this. The 2026 FIFA World Cup is, by every statistical measure, the biggest sporting event in history. 48 nations, 104 matches, billions watching across the globe. The football in the first few days has been genuinely exciting. Goals, upsets, drama, and storylines that will run for weeks. But FIFA is navigating a complicated relationship with the very supporters who make this tournament what it is. Ticket prices that have increased up to 5 times compared to 2022, a dynamic pricing model that's been applied to the world's most emotional sporting event, empty seats captured on camera, a formal legal challenge filed by the sport's leading fan organizations. The tournament isn't in danger. Let's be very clear about that.